Derrick Rose wasn't just good. He was the youngest MVP in league history. Chicago believed he was the second coming, built from concrete and lightning. He'd explode to the rim with no warning, defy gravity, then land like a man with no fear of falling. But in the 2012 playoffs, everything changed. A non-contact ACL tear turned a rising legend into a cautionary tale. The speed was still there, but the trust in his body never returned. He reinvented himself, but the prophecy was broken. Derrick Rose never fell off. His knees simply gave out before his story could finish. At his peak, Tracy McGrady was inevitable, a 6'8" shot-creating freak who could drop 40 like it was cardio. Back-to-back scoring titles, all-star nods, and one of the coldest 13 points in 33 seconds the league has ever seen. But his career was a house built on stress fractures. Year after year, his back gave out, then his knees followed. He never made it past the first round. Once hailed as the next in line after Kobe, he ended his career as a bench warmer on the Spurs, watching a finals run from the sidelines. His talent was undeniable. His body didn't care. Agent Zero wasn't just a nickname, it was a warning. Gilbert Arenas went from second-round pick to a 60-point nuclear option, lighting up the Wizards' box scores and the league's expectations. He talked trash, hit buzzer beaters, and made the All-Star team 3 years in a row. But everything imploded in a single moment, bringing guns into the locker room over a gambling dispute. Suspended, ridiculed, gone. The fall wasn't gradual. It was a switch flipped. One day, he was the future. The next, he was a punchline. Talent never left, but trust, that never came back. Before injuries rewrote the script, Penny Hardaway was supposed to be the next face of the NBA. His game was smooth, too smooth for a 6'7" point guard with that much vision, bounce, and control. He was the perfect sidekick to Shaq and the heir apparent to Magic. And then, his knees disintegrated. Microfracture surgeries that came too late, rehab that couldn't catch up, and a league that moved on without him. He had flashes in Phoenix and New York, but the magic was gone. Penny didn't fade, he was stolen, piece by painful piece, by his own body. Grant Hill was the guy, before Kobe, before LeBron, before anyone knew what load management was. A two-way monster with elite handle, vision, and leadership. He was All-NBA first team by his second season and finished third in MVP voting before he even hit his prime. Then came the ankle. One injury, mismanaged by the team, became 5 surgeries and a bacterial infection that nearly killed him. He came back, made peace with his body, and had a solid late career run in Phoenix. But the version that could have been the greatest, that version was buried in Detroit. This wasn't just a history lesson, it was a warning, because no star shines forever. For a stretch, Dwight Howard was the most dominant big man alive. 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards, an NBA Finals trip, and a Superman persona that sold jerseys and posters alike. But after leaving Orlando, his ego clashed with every locker room he entered. Kobe, Harden coaches, fans, instead of adapting, he doubled down. By the time he accepted a bench role and won a ring with the Lakers, the league had already moved on. The redemption arc was there, but so was the baggage. Dwight didn't fall because of talent. He fell because he couldn't let go of who he used to be. Russell Westbrook broke the rules. Averaged a triple-double across 3 seasons. Shattered records that hadn't moved since Oscar Robertson. But his game was built on speed, volume, and control. Or rather, the illusion of it. As the athleticism slipped, the turnovers stayed. So did the missed jumpers. And suddenly teams didn't want him. MVP to buyout candidate in just a few years. He never stopped playing hard, but the game stopped waiting for him to evolve. Westbrook didn't just slow down. He ran into the future and forgot to bring a backup plan. Carmelo Anthony was born to score. ISO heavy, jab step, pull-up poetry in motion. A 10-time All-Star who once led the league in scoring and carried Team USA with unmatched confidence. But he never adapted. As the NBA shifted to pace, space, and defense, Melo stayed mellow. And one day, he was just gone. No farewell tour, no contract offers, just silence. It took a year of waiting and humble pie before Portland gave him a lifeline. He played his way back in, but the fall had already happened. Not because he couldn't play, because he wouldn't change until it was too late. John Wall had it all: speed, vision, leadership, flash. He made 5 all-star teams and was once the face of a Wizards franchise that believed it had something real. Then came the knee injuries, then the Achilles, then a fall at home that ruptured everything again. He signed a $170 million contract and played fewer than 90 games across 4 seasons. The comeback attempts were valiant, but the league moved on fast. By the time he returned, the explosion was gone. And so was the spotlight. Wall didn't get to burn out. He was just erased. At his peak, DeMarcus Cousins was a walking 27-13-5, a center with handles, vision, and power. He made 4 straight all-star teams and was finally getting his chance to win alongside Anthony Davis in New Orleans. Then, Achilles rupture, the most feared injury in basketball, and it never got better. Quad injury, torn ACL, short-term deals, DNPS. The stats never told the full story, but the timeline did. Cousins was built for dominance, but his body was built on a countdown. When it hit 0, no one gave him another chance. Fame is loud, but the fall is always silent. Yao Ming was a global phenomenon. At 7 feet 6 inches, with a soft shooting touch and elite footwork, he became an 8-time All-Star and the bridge between China and the NBA. He dominated centers who had never seen that combination of size and finesse, but every step carried a risk. Stress fractures, surgeries, and shattered bones in his feet and ankles wore him down. By 30, he was done. Not because the talent left, but because his body refused to hold him up. The league didn't just lose a star, it lost its most important international ambassador overnight. Blake Griffin debuted like a human highlight reel. Windmill dunks, alley-oops, posters that shook the rim and the crowd. Rookie of the Year, Lob City's anchor. He even evolved, adding a handle, a jumper, and playmaking. But the more his game grew, the more his knees shrank, surgeries stacked, bounce vanished, and the superstar became a minimum contract role player. From MVP votes to garbage time in Detroit and Brooklyn, Blake didn't just slow down, he fell from the sky. And once he landed, the league never looked at him the same way again. Kemba Walker gave Charlotte everything. Step backs, buzzer beaters, all-star seasons, all from a 6'1" guard with a giant heart. He earned his payday in Boston, but the moment he signed, the pain started. Knee problems robbed him of lift, then minutes, then confidence. He bounced from Boston to New York to Dallas, each stop smaller than the last. Once feared in the clutch, he became an injury liability. Kemba didn't fade for lack of skill. He just ran out of cartilage and time. Chris Webber had the game. Power, finesse, elite passing. 5 all-star nods. Peak years in Sacramento, where he led one of the most beloved squads never to win it all. But no matter what he did, the timeout always followed him. Michigan, 1993. He called it when they had none left. A national title gone in an instant. And in the NBA, his Kings were robbed by whistles and fate. By the time injuries caught up and the window slammed shut, Webber had the numbers, but not the piece. Greatness, always shadowed by one mistake. Shawn Kemp didn't just dunk, he detonated. A 6-time All-Star who made defenders think twice before jumping. His chemistry with Gary Payton turned the 90s Sonics into contenders, and his athleticism was second to none. But then came the weight, then the alcohol, then the arrests. By the time he left Seattle, he wasn't the same. Cleveland got the bloated version. Orlando barely got anything. Kemp's fall wasn't about talent. It was about everything he couldn't outrun off the court. These weren't just players. They were blueprints of how fast greatness becomes regret. Baron Davis was pure chaos and brilliance in one package. Explosive handles, elite vision, and a killer instinct that powered the greatest upset in NBA playoff history. The 8-seed Warriors beating the 1-seed Mavericks in 2007. He posterized Kirilenko, dropped dimes like magic, and made Oakland believe. But his body started collapsing early. Knees, back, conditioning, the bounce disappeared, and so did the control. He drifted between teams, then out of the league entirely. One moment, he was conquering giants. The next, he couldn't outrun his own breakdown.